Hi guys, thanks for clicking on the video today. You're about to watch another episode of the Elliot Answers Show. So today's question for the Elliot Answers Show is bottom left or right? I've changed the direction, but it's kind of floppy, so it does one or the other every day. Also, my hair is thick. I'm trying to grow out like Adam Driver's hair. Is that possible? Well, first off, bottom left or bottom right? Well, we can see the bottom left, his hair is sat a little bit more flatter and it sort of works with the growth pattern more. When we look at the photo on the right, that has a little bit more volume and it's working against the way that the hair wants to sit. So really that's a personal preference to how you want it to go. If you go with the growth pattern, that's always going to sit flatter. If you go against the growth pattern, it's always going to, because it's then buckling against the root, then it's always going to have a little bit more volume through there, and it's going to have a little bit more natural texture. When it's going with the growth pattern, it's very easy for it to sit flat and untextured. That's why when you're trying to blow dry your hair and you're trying to add texture to it, you want to work your fingers into the bottom so it buckles the root. Even if it's going with the direction, you want to buckle the root so that it's got some movement in there. When the hair just goes with the growth pattern, that's when it sits flatter and then sits without texture if you don't want it. So really it's a personal preference as to you want texture or without the volume. Now you can see actually you've got texture even with the one where it's going with the growth pattern. So really that's just a personal preference. I think both work well with it. If you're trying to go more with the Adam Driver look, and if the photo that you've used for reference there, his hair obviously sits a bit flatter. So that would make me suggest that you would go with the growth pattern, so more like the bottom left photo. In terms of trying to grow the hair out, more like Adam Driver, I think that would very much work with yourself. Your face is quite slim and having the extra fullness and extra hair will work really quite nicely. It works well at the moment and will continue to work really nicely with that. We can see that your hair, yes, it is very thick, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. People sort of say, oh, my hair is so thick, it needs thinning out, as though having thick hair is a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing at all. If it's cut into the right shape, then actually having thick hair is quite a good thing to be able to have. The last thing you really want is to be having super thin hair and sort of losing it and falling out. So actually thick hair is really quite nice. When we look at the photo on the right, we can see that actually it's been cut a little bit tighter around the ears, probably the last time you had it cut, which would be just normal for the haircut in general. When you're growing it out now to be a bit more like Adam Driver's, you don't necessarily want to go tighter around the ears. You want that to be cut more as a flatter shaping through there as opposed to a triangular shape, because obviously as it gets longer you want that to be able to flow back nicely. You don't want it to necessarily to have a big chunk of weight. What that'll do is, if you have that chunk of weight as it keeps growing out, is that you'll start to feel very mushroom like and it'll feel as though your head is very big. So having that cut so it's a flatter silhouette will work really quite nicely. And yeah, for sure, keep growing it into the Adam Driver look. What I would say with the condition of the hair, if you look at the photo on the right, it's looking a little bit dry, a little bit crispy, and a little bit with separation through it, so that the hairs aren't really sitting together. They're quite frizzy. So I would probably make sure when you're washing your hair, you're using a conditioner, and then maybe even putting some leave-in conditioner in before you style it as well. Maybe a smoothing cream as well, so that it can keep that nice texture and a nice velvety feel to it, which you can see that Adam Driver does have and has traditionally always had like a nice velvety sheen to his hair. So yeah, make sure you're conditioning and looking after the hair as well is a big part of that. Thanks a lot for watching today, guys. If you have any questions or if you'd like to be featured on the show at all, please drop me a message. All my social media channels, they're going to be here and then all linked down below as well. Have a brilliant day. Much love, Elliot.